Hey there, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally. Hopefully all is well in your home, and testing out a new microphone, so let me know how that sounds to you or doesn't sound to you. So firstly, for those of you that didn't catch this on the Crock-Pot Chef's broadcast, we unfortunately had to put Mona to sleep last night, early this morning really. So this is Mona and Mary Jo when we were in Prairie, Montana this summer. She really liked that area. And this is Hi-O and Mona and I up on the Beartooth Highway. That really is a beautiful part of the world if you haven't seen it. So, and then lastly, here are the girls kind of overlooking this beautiful view. So, you know, it's always a hard question. When is it really time? And for Mona, it was definitely time yesterday. And you could make an argument that maybe it was time before, I don't know. But at any rate, she is resting peacefully. She had a good day yesterday at the beach. She ate a lot and then started getting really out of it and having diarrhea last night. So it was time to let her ease into the next life that hopefully will be easier for her. So let me hop over to the questions so we can get those answered. I wanted to follow up a little bit on Kay's question about SIBO. And I think that what I'm going to tell you is appropriate for sort of down the road. So I think I'm glad that I was able to give you some really good information, Kay, but what I wanted to share with you all is something that is just flummoxing me. So as you know, many of you know, I have been dealing with SIBO since 2016 or 17, something like that. And I have tried it all. And so, you know, your pets with GI issues are the beneficiary of that information. But lo and behold, I was having pretty massive relapses and having to take medication again. And so I talked with a woman that's a registered dietitian. And what she told me is that, you know, for the amount of activity I've been doing, that I've been under eating by something like 1,000 calories a day. And you know, I'm following the advice I see on websites and things of that nature. And by doing that, what I'm doing is teaching my body that it has to stay in survival mode, and so everything has to stay shut down. So what she told me to do is to just start eating. And so literally I have been eating like a farmhand. I don't think I've eaten this much since I was probably in my 20s for real. And, you know, I'm keeping up my activity level as far as I'm, you know, biking for half an hour to an hour a day, doing about 100 and some odd push-ups and squats and some other bits and pieces. So my activity level is relatively high. And I am on Xifaxan, which is the medication that gets used on the human side, similar to Tylosin. It scared the hell out of me because what she wanted me to do was start eating carbohydrates, you know, whole grains, things of that nature. And in the past, that would have been absolutely miserable. And the reason I went forward with it, because my next step was to go back to the gastroenterologist and go through a bunch of tests, and what she was saying made sense. So here we are about 10 days later. I won't tell you it's 100% perfect, but what I've been able to eat as far as beans and you know, grains and things of that nature is astonishing, with diminishing amounts of discomfort and improving bowel motility so that the symptoms go away. You know, I found I kind of went hog wild and ate, you know, some ice cream and a bunch of bread and things of that nature, but those things still don't work. Sugar and wheat are still pro-inflammatory. And weirdly for me, probably grapefruits are, like high volumes of citrus. But this really made me start to think about nutrition differently. And so her theory is that if you eat if you refuel every 4 hours, that things are better. Now, I'm not quite sure how that translates to dogs. But I think given the opportunity, they would love to eat a little bit every 4 hours. And so this may be a something to try for those of you that are struggling with pets with SIBO. It will still allow the migrating motor complex to work. So if you'll remember, about 90 minutes after you've eaten a meal and you've not taken anything else in, that's when the migrating motor complex starts to drop food down in from the small intestine into the colon. And that's part of how the bacterial counts stay low. So I don't know, to be continued, but I just wanted to share that with you because it is definitely not what I thought she was going to tell me. And to be honest, right before I talked with her, at that relapse, all I could eat was fat and some protein, and even that was causing really profound bloating. So I went, oh, this is a motility issue, not so much SIBO. So one of the things that helped was that ileocecal valve maneuver, and I'm still doing that every night. So there you go. That's what I can tell you today. So let me pop back over to the page. And this is interesting. So Wendy shared this chart from Carolina State University, and these are high. So this is 100 milligrams per pound, and the dose I had been using was 100 milligrams per kilogram. Now, I'm not sure if this is for cancer or, it looks like it's just for osteoarthritis. This is a high dose, and frankly, y'all, that's why we have the fish oil that we do, even though it says it's for large animals or for large dogs. Let me see if I put that in the right place. Yeah, I did. Good for me. Let me pop over to the page. So this dosing is at about 50 mg per kilogram. So this is the deal, is that, at that dose that, it's on this Colorado State University that Wendy shared with us, that's almost double. In fact, it is more than double. So if we go back over here to this Iceland Pure, I'll get that out of the way. We're saying that 100 pounds should be getting 4,500 milligrams per day of omega-3 fatty acids. And if we pop back here, then, we're seeing that this is, they're about comparable dosing. So that's why, we go with this much higher dose product, because we're going to get those good. So 100 pounds is 4,500 milligrams on the Colorado State University. 70 pounds is about there. So this is probably at about 100 mg per kg, the Iceland Pure, but this is why I recommend this one. Because even with small pets, you can do a quarter teaspoon or a half a teaspoon, things of that nature, and easily get to that high dose that we're looking for. So I hope that makes sense to you. But this is where we can really get some of the anti-inflammatory benefits out of omega-3 fatty acids. And again, they mentioned here fish oil. The ones that I tend to like to go with are sardine and anchovy fish oils, because they are more sustainable. So salmon oil, calamari oil, krill oil, these are non-sustainable because the krill and calamari are on the lower part of the food chain, and so if we wipe those guys out, we are in big trouble. So for instance, the other animals that eat the krill are the whales, and so we're in the Baja California Sur area down near Todos Santos, and the gray whales migrate down here during the winter, and they're seeing a lot of whales get here, but they're dying because they have literally starved to death. So some of that is due to the ice shelf melting, but some of that is because their food source is not as available as it used to be. So it is really important, y'all, to choose sustainable products. So I hope that's helpful, Wendy. Cerie's asking about bone broth, and poor Cece got diarrhea. So a cup is a lot. So what I would do is, bone broth is really, really rich. It's very high in minerals. It's very high in cartilage, things of that nature. So you want to go slow because, again, interestingly, this is a problem for dogs and people with slow bowel motility, because it is a histamine releaser. So literally, I would put something like a teaspoon or a tablespoon or something of that nature. Just go slow with it. So I would freeze this into small aliquots that you can feed through the day, and see if that doesn't help prevent the GI stuff free. And Cece, you may just need to get her some bentonite clay or charcoal, something of that nature, to help kind of dry things back up. And then Kathy's asking about her pups walking on blacktop, and she's got it cleaned off pretty well. But the foot pads are stained black. And so I think what you've got to deal with here, Kathy, is just over time, continue bathing or soaking the feet with vegetable oil. So, this is tough as far as getting them to leave it alone. But what I would do is kind of let me see if I can pop this over again. So on that foot, take a cloth or oil and just let it soak on the foot and let that help draw it out. But the oil will definitely help dissolve this stuff better than anything else. So I hope that makes sense. As far as it being dangerous, I think you've gotten the vast majority of it off, and so you should be in good shape. And at this point, it's more of like a staining, and it's impregnated that hard callus, if that makes sense to you. Let's see, what else do we have here? Lolly is asking about turmeric and cooking it or not cooking it. So, Lolly, the point of the turmeric in the recipe is to, again, make a food-based version of the herb. So in Chinese medicine, this is really interesting. When they do herbal formulas, it used to be the vast majority were in what they called decoctions. And so literally they're putting the herbs in a special pot and just boiling them for an hour, dumping more water in, boiling them down again, and then boom, there you go. So we know those herbal formulas work. Now, what this article is saying is true as far as if you're trying to get therapeutic levels of curcumin, cooking does take out some of that curcumin. And so, again, you have to think about what your goal is with the turmeric. There are people that eat golden paste, and pets can do that as well. I think there's probably links to that. And it is a great anti-inflammatory. So, again, remember, the herbs that are in the Crock-Pot recipe are more of a long-range approach and not a therapeutic dosing. So, if you're after a therapeutic amount, then what I would suggest doing is either doing the, yellow paste, or golden yellow paste as it's called, and then the other option would be to use a supplement, and that's part of the reason we started carrying or selling this. Actually, having made this supplement that is turmeric, bioperine, and coconut oil, which are all able to help support your pet's inflammation level. So if we pop over to that page, let me show this to you and see if this makes a little sense. We've got a really slow internet, so it's going. But anyway, we've got 300 milligrams of turmeric per tablet, and then that equilibrates to 95% curcuminoids, and then bioperine, again, to help increase absorption in organic coconut oil as well. And so that's set up so that it's easy to dose pets of all sizes. So the thing you do have to be cognizant of is that the only contraindication for turmeric is if your pet is on some sort of a blood thinner or needs that because of cardiac disease. So check that out so you can see what I'm talking about. It does have some beef and bacon flavor, which so far so good. Pets have really, really enjoyed that. So I hope that makes some sense. Susan's asking about her pup with a large heart and heart condition, has a wheezing cough and is lethargic. And I'm assuming that, Susan, the x-ray is normal and you're not seeing a lot of fluid present in the lungs, or your veterinarian isn't. So if that's not happening, if you're not seeing a ton of fluid in the lungs, that would be my main concern, that your baby is starting to go into a form of congestive heart failure where the vet medicine may not be sufficient to control it. The other thing that can happen as well, especially with these smaller guys, is that they can get collapsing trachea. They can have issues with the and Hio's telling us Mary Jo's gotten home. They can have issues with the heart being so big that it actually compresses the trachea. So, first things first, make sure that there is no fluid evident in the lungs on x-ray. And ultrasound is not very sensitive for that. But let me know what else is going on. But you may find you may need some sort of a diuretic. The other issue is that if the lungs look good, then what you would want is some sort of a mild cough suppressant. And that could be anything from hydrocodone, which is a prescription product, to some of the, like, a honey-based antitussives. And actually they found on the human side that those worked better than the Robitussin, which is pretty interesting. So I hope that's helpful. And Sri is asking, okay, thanks so much for the kind comments too. Do wild wolves or wild dogs get arthritis at all? Or is it reserved just for our older pets not walking so much? So here's what I would say about that. I think that the average lifespan of wolves and wild dogs is probably a lot less than our pets. So to give frame of reference, when I started working as a veterinarian in 1990, the average lifespan of a dog was 8. And that means, just average dogs. It's now about 12. And so we've been able to do some things to help protect them. But on the other hand, what we're doing in the most part, and you guys are certainly way past this, but we're feeding a very pro-inflammatory food because it's very high in processed carbohydrates, the corns, rices, things of that nature that are broken down into little bits and pieces. Hey Susan, good to see you. I'm good. So hopefully you talked with Anya today. What I'm going to tell you is that it is all about balance. I don't think that wolves or wild dogs survive with arthritis for very long because they can no longer hunt. I will tell you that over and over again, we know that motility does a lot to help improve the body's function and to resolve inflammation. So we know that walking and doing some exercise is critical. And for humans, it's been shown that if you sit for the whole workday, your overall survival rate has just dropped by something like 3 to 5 years. So that's why for humans, we've got these little Pomodoro timers, and they go off every 20 to 35 minutes, and I use one, so I get up and move, because otherwise I'm going to get stiff and loaded up. So what I would say is that frequent walks several times a day. Now, what you don't want to do is exceed your pet's ability to handle that level of exercise. So just as too little is bad, way too much is also not good, because you're going to, again, put stress on those joints that are painful and inflamed, and you will also just overwork what your pet's able to do. And like me, if you start with, okay, I've been sitting on my butt, so I'm going to eat 1,500 calories a day for the small amount of exercise I do, and then all of a sudden rapidly increase it, you put a terrific amount of stress on the body. So what I would suggest is going slow. And in humans, it's been shown that a minimum of 1 to 1.5 hours of movement every day. And if 30 minutes, well, actually about 5 hours a week is really intensive exercise, then that's what really improves our lifespan and quality of life. So I think for dogs, it's hard to know how to translate that. There are some folks that that say that really dogs are going to sleep 20 to 22 hours a day. The younger ones less, the older ones more. And so in that 4 hours a day, you want to have some calm stimulus, you want to have some high stimulus activity, and some exercise. So I think what I would do, Sri, is gradually build them up. So for instance, I shared that I did a push-up challenge, which I'm actually repeating because I can do full push-ups now. But I couldn't do full push-ups a month ago, and so I did them on my knees. But I started with 25 a day and then ended up at 175 a day at the end of the month. And really, that's a great way to gradually increase the amount of exercise that you and your pets are doing without creating problems. So I would take that approach. If they're not doing much, then start with walks of 5 to 10 minutes a day and see if that helps. And that's, Susan, you're perfectly right. I mean, so for Mona at the end of this last year, her walks were literally outside to sniff and check out outside. And after about 3 to 4 minutes, she was done. So I think you have to really see what your pets are doing. Sometimes we can see them get better, but for, Mona was like 113 or something, right? If 7 times 16, you can do the math faster than I can. And so at that point, we know that her chi is very depleted, and we don't want to overspend it, if that makes sense. So Sri, I hope that's helpful. And we did have a good weekend. And I think that's what I've got for you today. Let me just double check the document to make sure that I have not missed anything. And I think I got them all. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I have for you this week. Until next week, remember your pet's best health starts in the bowl, and take good care and give everybody a big hug for me. Thanks.